This is Rowena Dooley asking Sol citizens to report for duty. Asking Sol citizens to report for duty.
Hey, greetings. Welcome back to Soul Voices. I'm GriffinGamingRPG, and we are back. Today is Saturday, September the 21st, and I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you had a good week. Hope you're enjoying, I don't know, maybe where you're living, the weather's not that great, but the weather's been pretty good here where I live. We've been in the 80s all week, and I'm trying to take it all in now because I know it's all going to change later pretty soon. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for being here today. Soul Voices is our Soul Citizens podcast where we talk about items from Spectrum, from Reddit, and from the gaming industry, from CIG, and anything else I might come up with, where you get to come in and talk to me one-on-one. So yeah, hopefully you guys will have a great show today. I've got an interesting topic for you all. But before we reach that, let me give some shout outs to some people I see in the room. Let's see who was here first today. New Soul Sounds. What's going on? Pops in Space, how are you? Kaizen, my good friend, how are you? Hope you're well. The Prisoner, hope you are doing well. Morgoth, haven't seen you in a bit. Hope you're doing good. Lord of the Drip. I love that. One day you're going to have to tell me where that name comes from. I'm sure it's from something, or maybe you came up with it, but you're going to have to fill me in on that. But good to see you, Lord of the Drip. Let's see who else is here. Jay, what's going on, Jay? My good friend Jay, I saw your fleet pick the other day. Very cool stuff, man. We got to talk about it. Sir Togi, thank you so much for that sub. Thank you for kicking it in for us. Appreciate you as always, the man with the golden froggy voice. Thank you guys for being here. It's been an interesting couple weeks, but it's been an interesting week this week. As you guys know, CIG did once again, they did some testing for the servers. For static server meshing, and some of you all got a chance to participate in it. I got to participate in it for a little bit. As always, Togi was there when the door opened, and he spent, I think, most of the time that it was going, he was in there. I got in there for a little bit. I got to test it at, let's see, when I came in the first time, I think it was at 100, but I went out for a second, and then I came back, it was at 350. I went in at 500. I went in at 1,000 at one point, but I think my numbers only got up to like 8 something when I got out. And at 1,000, it was starting to creak, as you guys know. At 350, it was great. 500, it was a little bit of delay. But anyway, from my understanding, it was both a success and a learning experience for CIG. Better than last week's, better than the last one that we did. But anyway, I hope you guys are having an opportunity to jump in when those happen. I know sometimes maybe you guys are at work or not available. They tried to run it for 24 hours. I think they did this time. But try to get in, jump in. There's no missions or anything like that. But try to jump in, try to zoom around with friends, meet up at places. Some people have been putting together big groups of like 100, 150 in one location to see how the thing works out. So yeah, it's been different things going on. Yeah. Risto, yes, absolutely. Risto Squared. Yeah, they can do the 1,000, right? If you remember last week when they were going to do the other test, they were actually trying to push for 1,200. They were actually trying to go over that amount. But we'll see how it goes, right? And keep in mind too, this is all being done within the Stanton system. It'll be great to me if they get 1,000. When I say 1,000, if they could make it so that there is, with 2 systems, 500 in each system, that was the minimum I asked for. I'd be happy if they did that. But we'll see what happens, right? We're still pushing and testing. We'll see how it goes. Maybe there'll be another test next week. Zeno, thank you for that resub. 12 months, 1 solid year of subbing. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. So anyway, let's get ready to jump into our topic for today. As you can see on the screen, there's been a lot of talk about what's going to be coming up with Star Citizen, and as you guys know, base building is a really big thing that folks are thinking about. And so, every time the first ship we ever got that was in relation to this big, I still think it's one of the best presentations that CIG did was the Pioneer, right? I think that was one of the best ones. So we're going to talk about that later on. That's going to be our hot topic for the end of the show today. I think it's the hot topic for the end of the show. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So I hope you guys will be around for that. Let's go ahead and jump into our very first one. I didn't know whether to put this at the beginning of the show because I know there are going to be people who have something to say, or whether I should have waited until later in the show so that more people would be able to jump in. Because I know as people come in, as you guys know, we get more people as time goes by. They're going to come in and say, what the heck are they talking about? So I'm going to just put this on the screen. Now, normally when we put any post from Spectrum or Reddit, we put the link out there for you guys. And on this particular occasion, I'm not putting the link out. Mostly because I don't want to put the person who wrote this on blast. Okay. It's just a comment that I've seen similar. Let me say that I've seen similar comments to this posted before. And normally when I see them, I just kind of move on, because you see it so much, right? But for some reason, on this particular occasion, it struck me really hard because someone was explaining some things someone had a complaint about the game. Someone gave a retort back. It wasn't a negative retort. It was more of a, well, this is the reason why, and this is just kind of what happens. And then it just inflamed, right? It literally just kind of blew up. And it was interesting to see how one question and one response just kind of ignited a whole subject. So let me put the statement out here for you guys, okay? And this was, the person who answered did not say this. It was somebody else who made the statement. Maybe this is not the game for you. And we've said this before in relation to, I haven't said it in relation to, well, I have. I think maybe I've implied it. 2 things that I know I've said, and maybe some of the other Soul Citizens have said. I've said that alpha can be very tough to go through. It's a very difficult process for us as gamers because there's an expectation that we have for a game when we come to it. And then there is the fact that the time that passes is very tough. But even beyond that, even if Star Citizen was finished, I've said that we don't know, will Star Citizen be the game for you? Once everything Chris Roberts wants in this game is there, will it meet what I need as a gamer to feel this is satisfactory? Will it have my interest? Maybe it won't have my interest. Maybe they go a different direction. Maybe the things that I was looking forward to didn't get delivered, right? Now, mind you, I'm not talking about in the development process. I'm not talking about that because, there are things at tier 0, tier 1, and maybe by tier 5, tier 6, they show up. But I'm talking about in the very end, when everything's done, out of alpha, out of beta, out of, early access, it's a finished game. Will Star Citizen be the game for me? I would hope that it would be. I've kind of said to myself, if it's got 60, 70%, well, the 60 is kind of low. If it's got 70 to 80% of what I want, I'm down for it. I'm expecting that there are going to be some things that either I'm not interested in or I just don't, it's not my thing. or maybe the way they execute it doesn't really sit well with me. So that's kind of where I'm at. That could happen. So this was the comment. Wow. Envoy, thank you so much for that sub. 32 months. Oh, you're going on 3 years. 3 years of torture. No, 3 years of support. Thank you so much. And Axis, good to see you. 21 months. You're going on 2 years. Thank you. You guys are awesome. Thank you guys for that. So I want to kind of take a look at this statement. This is one of those familiar statements that's out there, but this one caught my eye and I said I'd go with it. And so this is what the person says. Not only is it not the game for you, quote unquote, it also most certainly not the game that they said they would make. The thing that was advertised and sold. That's what the effing problem is. So take your condescending manure and shove it. Okay. So the thing that interests me is I'll use the word amount of passionate use of the language here. Are we as gamers, it's such a subjective thing, right? Everybody can watch a Star Citizen video, a trailer, a ship video, a release video, an update video, and see so many things there. And many of those things that CIG presents, let's use something as simple as stability, right? Just stability. We won't even talk about features, game mechanics, anything else. When you see that trailer, you see stability. But when you come to Star Citizen, quite often, stability isn't there. It's not there. Is it a matter of CIG not providing the stability now? Or is it concern about the stability being in place later? Which one is it? Is it because we've been going without the stability for so long? And by now we feel like stability should be in place. What is the thing that makes this statement of the thing that was advertised and sold? Does CIG bear the brunt of that sentiment? Do the gamers, is their expectation too high? Is it fair? Is it unfair to have that expectation 10 years, 12 years into a development? Is it that communication isn't there well enough to maybe help have understanding, or that people would dismiss? So I'm going to bring in some folks here and get your thoughts on this. This is not the game for you, and you could talk about it in relation to now. Is it a situation where some people just shouldn't be playing Star Citizen right now? And that may sound very dismissive. I'm speaking from the perspective of, it's just, I'm just too frustrated. I'll do something else and let me know when it releases. What do you guys think that the thought would be? So I think Pops in Space was first. Let me bring Pops in and we will go with that. Pops, how are you?
I'm fine. How has your day been?
I'm doing good. I'm going to boost you up a little bit. Go ahead and give me a test 1, 2.
1, 2, 1, 2.
All right, there we go.
1, 2.
Speak up just a little bit for me, Pops. Speak up just a little bit.
Oh, a little bit?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Let me move this mic a little bit closer. Is that better?
Much, much better. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. You're kind of right in the way that when the advertisements come in, the ships are jumping here and there. The fighting looks very smooth when they show those types of machinimas and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm going to reference Jade. Jade was one of the first people that always said we have to kind of when we see these machinimas, not only just machinimas from CIG, but our own. Mm-hmm. And it does put out a false narrative if you really want to think that. Mm-hmm. But they do say it is an alpha. So it's something. When I came in, things were happening. My ship was blowing up, and I'm getting up. So I'm like, what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
It's something I had to grow to understand, really. And a lot of times I know you speak about it, the use of the word alpha.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned a lot from that. So that's helped me to put the game in its place, what's going on in its development. And it's kind of given me some peace of mind understanding that.
Okay.
You know, for me, wow, whether or not to answer the question, if it's the game that's not for you, I guess that can't be answered until it comes out. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
it fluctuates. So if you can deal with fluctuation,
Yeah.
I guess that's a personal choice of
So
how much you can deal with.
So let me ask you this question: how long have you started? I'm just trying to get each person. I'd like to know like how much time they've been a part of the Star Citizen community. So you came in what year?
I believe it was. I think the first time I jumped in, the very first time, I think it was 2016.
Okay. 2016.
And I believe so. That's what I want to say.
Okay.
And I couldn't get out of PO.
Okay.
And I think I left it alone for like 2 years.
Okay. So we'll go with that was when you came in, but let's go for at least say 2018, 2019. That's when you really started hanging around.
That's when I really started. When I bought my, because I came in on a free fly.
Okay.
And bought my first ship in, I believe, 2018.
Okay. So you got at least 6 solid years of being a part of the community. That's what I'm hearing pretty much. Okay. Awesome. All right, Pops. I appreciate those thoughts. We'll see how it goes from here. Thank you, brother. Let me see. Where have I got, you know what? I can't even move you, Pops. I've got so many, doggone lines in my Discord that my goofy thing. No, I think I got you. I just had to move some things. Here we go. All right. Okay. I think the next one up was Jay Voodoo Child. Haven't talked to Jay in a while. Hey, Jay, how are you? I think he's there. He's probably unmuting, or maybe he went to go get something to drink. All right, I'll have to bring Jay back. Jay, if you're there, I'm not hearing you in audio, so I'm going to put you back in the queue and I'll bring you back. Let me bring in Kai Zen. Kai, you there?
What's up?
Ah, there's Kai. Okay, I can hear Kai. How you doing?
Brother?
Good.
I'm feeling great.
Good. Could you speak up just a little bit? I've got very low audio. You know what? I'll bring you up in Discord. I'll make it easy. Go ahead, buddy.
Test.
Yep. I got you turned up. Go ahead.
All right. So, I think that the idea of stability in the game at the point that it is a bad idea. You should expect stability in the game further along in the development process. However, the game should be further along
in the development process.
As we approach the middle of the second decade of this game being in development. We're at year 12. The middle of the second decade technically is year 15. So 13, 14, 15 is the middle of the second decade of this game being in development.
Okay.
So I understand, like, as far as the idea of, is this game for you? Here's the thing. Anyone, including CIG, who tells you if this game is for you is a liar. We don't know. There's too many question marks that are left open for future development. This game might be for you, and you might right now be writing it off as hell no, and you're dead wrong. This game might be not for you, and you're writing it off as of course, and you're dead wrong.
Right.
This game is such a bloated mess that it could be put off. It literally could be being created by the government at this point, where it's like, what is going on? Like, maybe it's for you, maybe it's not for you. I put in $40, and I'm very happy to take the ride.
Yeah.
But I don't play. You said you wanted to know when people got in.
Right.
I got in at 2019.
Okay.
And I literally play for like a week every year or two.
Okay.
And then just go,
see you next year.
All right, it's still a mess of maybe. and then I go play other things. I'm playing the hell out of Elder Scrolls Online right now,
Mhm.
and Helldivers 2,
Mhm.
and having fun.
Mhm.
And I'll come back to this
Mhm.
at some point in the future,
Mhm.
if and when they get their act together.
Okay.
I believe that it is well worth the investment of $45,
Mhm.
and then let's see what happens.
Okay.
But it is for sure a bloated mess of get your shit together and figure out where you want to go and get moving. Like,
Okay.
not now, but like 5 years ago. Get moving.
Okay.
For
Fair
all the
enough.
people that are like loving this game and are dedicated to it, I completely understand you.
Mhm.
For all the people that are haters of this game
I
and
completely
are like,
understand you.
screw that, I definitely understand you. Me personally, I'm taking a more like the parts about this game that frustrate me are the fact that they have not got their shit together and they're approaching the middle of the second decade. The part about this game that excites the hell out of me is that there's so much possibility in a world, in a landscape where games have just been like, let's iterate with 3% more of last year's bullshit,
Mhm.
that it excites me.
Mhm.
And I'm literally stuck in the middle of, let's see, I'm in purgatory.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, Guy. Appreciate that. Thank you, buddy. I always get to share some good thoughts. Let's see. I think I want to say, let's try Jay again. See if Jay is back. Jay, you there?
Hello.
Hey, there he is. Awesome sauce.
Sorry
All
about
right.
that YouTube delay. I was confused and all.
That's okay.
All right. So I joined in April 2017 for my benchmark.
Okay.
I wasn't really active first couple of years. Like that first year, I was doing a lot of research to kind of figure out what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
But after the delay of whatever was going on that year, I was like, okay, I just kind of need to put this on the back burner.
Right.
I guess 2021 was when I got really back into it and serious and really active as far as I want and all that good stuff. But I've been paying attention throughout that period of time.
Right.
So as far as the topic goes, I think the major issue here is that this is a crowd-funded game, and furthermore, it's been such long in development that people have let their imaginations run with what the possibilities are. And it's not like a typical gaming purchase for a lot of people that you know so much about the final product before you decide to put your money down. And with crowdfunding, you're putting your money first, just basically on a pitch, a concept.
Yeah.
And it will change significantly. I definitely subscribe to InfoRunner's mantra of always have an exit plan. And I have things laid out if, my big thing is using extra digital downloads to self-crew my ships. But if that never comes through, then I already have a kind of roadmap to say, okay, if I only have one character, this is how I'm going to, do my fleet.
Yeah.
And, if the game turns out to be, I'm a Care Bear, and if this is just too much PvP for my taste, then, I'll sell off of the entire account and, find something else that will be more my speed.
Yeah.
So, I've kind of realized those obstacles.
Yeah.
And kind of, position myself to change directions wherever CIG goes.
Right.
But I don't think a lot of people do that. And with as much money as people are spending, I've spent more on Star Citizen than I have on any other game, even over the 7 years period. I think that comes with it a lot of entitlement that the game must be for me, because to evaluate the money they've already invested into it.
Yeah.
And that's just not the case. And that's just a reality a lot of people just don't understand. And we kind of see frustrations like there is on this post.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because we bought games before that we thought were going to be something, and it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. Right. And that's based upon a very short, limited amount of time, right? From when we saw it, got interested. Maybe it was a Steam sale, right? We bought this game, we played it, and it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. And we feel a certain kind of way, but we just feel a certain kind of way. But when you've been waiting for something for 10 years and it's not the game you want to be,
Exactly.
you might feel a different way, you know? So I do appreciate you mentioning about the info runners and their statement of the exit plan. You know, it's the old "don't put all your eggs in one basket" thing to a certain degree. You know, leave some room for the fact that if it's not what we want it to be, that's okay. You know, just be ready to move on versus going on the ledge and jumping out the window afterward. So we'll see how it goes.
Bouncing off on Spectrum.
All right, Jay. Thanks a lot, buddy. Good to talk to you.
Appreciate it.
Good old Jay. All right. I can't know who was next. I'm going to bring in Fist, then Togi, then Admiral, because I don't know what order. Guys, forgive me if I'm out of order. Fist, you there?
Yes, sir. Hey, how you doing?
How are you? Good.
Give me. I had stepped away for the beginning part when you was doing the question. Can you give me just a little?
Listen, this is the second week you stepped away in my intros.
Yeah, I apologize. Man.
I'm just messing with you. All right. So basically what it was this statement of not the game for you. Somebody had a complaint in Spectrum. Somebody responded back, but then there was somebody else who responded, well, maybe this game isn't for you. Well, then this is their response. And I've seen this type of it's not the response as much as it is the reaction. It's the heightened reaction to this whole idea of the game not being for you. You know, we know that we've talked about the fact that alpha can be a very difficult time, but we've also talked about the fact that even after the game is finished, will Star Citizen be the game for you? And this is someone who basically says it's almost certainly not the game that they said they would make or the thing that they advertise. So I was using for an example, when we watch the very slick and cool marketing videos that CIG puts out, whether it's for ships or FPS, one of the examples I gave was stability, right? That you see the game is running flawlessly. I'm not even talking about mechanics, just the game is running well, you know, and CIG is selling that in their commercial. But then when you go play the game, sometimes it's that way, sometimes it's not, right? So, you know, this feeling about that, how do you feel about when someone makes a statement like this, which you see on the screen?
You know, my dad, I did hear briefly what my dad said, you know, and some other folks. I had, you know, he touched on a point, like you just said, about the advertisement.
Yeah.
And I have to pose this question. What game have we ever seen in history throughout all of our gaming history has the game advertised something and that's what you saw in the game? That's what you got.
Yeah, sometimes we get games that are totally, the cinematics don't even slightly match up, and then other times it's kind of close. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, we've seen that.
You look at World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft don't look nothing like this cinematics.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny to that point that you would say that, because Kai mentioned ESO earlier, and one of the things that drew me to ESO, their opening cinematics was amazing, but the game does reflect it a little bit more. When I saw World of Warcraft's animation, because I had never seen theirs until recently. I think it was either Stunner or some other folks said, "Hey, Griff, you should take a look at this." And I started watching it. I'm like, man, these look amazing. But then I look at the game and it's like, you know. But I get it. They're just trying to tell a story, you know. But if I bought it based on those cinematics, I might have felt a certain kind of way. Yeah, I might have felt a certain kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm seeing in the chat. Okay, Mario Brothers, like Kai saying. Okay,
yeah, Mortal Kombat.
And listen, no, and you know what? I'm gonna take Kai's point to Mario Brothers. How many times did you have to blow on that cartridge to make it work? How many times you have to blow on Zelda to make it work?
Okay.
Now, mind you, Mortal Kombat came out in Genesis, right?
Yeah.
Genesis, Super Nintendo. Now you had stability, right?
Yeah.
Because you didn't really have that issue.
Yeah.
But when you look at, if you talk about stability, right?
And I'm just using stability as an example, mind you. I'm just using it as an example because I didn't want to get into game mechanics and stuff. You know, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm saying. So when we look at the state of gaming, we've always had to deal with some form of, you know, instability somewhere or another, right? You know, as I'm gonna bring it up, heartbreaking story, as all of y'all know, and the game that I love to really hate, it's a Anthem, right? I watched Anthem and played Anthem when it first came out, was ready for that game, man. And it was heartbreaking.
Yeah, it
to
changed
see where that
dramatically.
game is today. So and so much potential but to my point, so you can get to other folks, it's just that I get it. For me, when I look at it, I understand frustration.
Yeah.
But I understand at the same time too that I want Star Citizen to be the best that it can be.
Okay.
Because I'm kind of tired of I'm gonna say it, the First Descendants.
Okay.
The First Descendant, and I'm gonna say this real quick. The First Descendant, if you see the game, go look it up on YouTube. Looks great. But I'm gonna tell you something. You got to have the mental capacity to play that damn game if you're not ready. Because the RNG is disgusting in that game. And I'm being for real.
Yeah.
Because when First Descendant came out, I mean, population was booming. You go in there, it's almost like a ghost land. Because again, it's these games doing these same tactics that I've seen, that I've learned and seen over the years. When I'm naming them, Blade and Soul did it. Black Desert did it. With these same RNG tactics where you put players in this position where all it is that you do is you give them this grind fest to the point to keep them into the game to become the biggest and baddest that they can be, so they can show you their DPS numbers. And there's no content.
Fair enough. Let me ask you this, because I got to stay on focus on the subject here. What's your length of time that you've been in the game? What's your focus of time being in the game? You've been in the game now how long?
Same time frame as mine.
Same time frame, 2018 you came in, so you got 4 plus 4, 8 years in now. 8 years, right? Okay, cool. All right, buddy. Thanks much. All right, let me bring in the man, Togi himself, Sir Togi. Hey, Togi.
What up?
How are you, man?
Oh, chilling.
Yeah, like a villain. Like a pirate.
So this kind of goes back to something I've been saying now for a couple of years.
Okay.
At the beginning of this project, Chris Roberts sold such a wide scoping project. I don't think anybody that was into sci-fi couldn't find their dream in it. And the closer that we get to a finished product, the more people are waking up. And the sooner people wake up, they find themselves further and further away from that dream. And that's CIG's fault for marketing it like that. I mean, there's also certain game dev realities,
right,
where they couldn't achieve things, where things just didn't pan out right. Take for instance, like hover mode. I'm really mad that hover mode didn't happen. Right? Because to me, hover mode was a big part of balancing, ground vehicle gameplay. And now I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't know how viable ground vehicle gameplay is going to be. That was something that I wanted. I had to wake up from that dream.
Right. Let me ask you.
If somebody,
go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Griff.
No. You go ahead. If somebody what?
If somebody, if I voice a concern about that, and then somebody says some condescending BS like this, oh, it's not the game for you. I'm like, yeah, no, duh. That's my problem.
Yeah.
That's why I'm voicing my concern here.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think an attitude like this achieves anything.
Yeah.
Except kicking a hornet's nest or kicking somebody that's already down.
Yeah. That's a good thing to remind us of, that there are people who do feel a certain level of disappointment. It's not sometimes always about the time or the money spent. They feel disappointed that something that maybe was in the game or the CIG referenced in the game has not been delivered. My only caveat to what you say, Togi, and I agree with you 100%. So I'm going to say that right off the bat. 100% I agree. My only caveat is this, and this is where I think us as gamers, and it's still painful, and I don't know if this is even justified. I'm not saying that this justifies it, I think that sometimes the gamers draw the line on where they think the game is going to stop. They think they know what the game is going to be based upon what we're doing. Like, for example, CIG told us hover mode's coming back. Not gone. In alpha, it was put out there as a thing to test. Let's see how the community deals with it. Let's see how it works. And then let's take it back and let's see what we can do with it later. Let's see if we can incorporate it. Let's see if we can make it better. That's how I see hover mode, based upon them saying hover mode is coming back. Just like bed logging left. And they said, we're going to be bringing back a bed logging. I don't think it's gone. So I think that I try to be careful that, like, when something like, for example, Tessa Bannister, Tessa was our way of testing mission assignments back in the early days. And everybody has this nostalgic feeling about Tessa, but Tessa ultimately becomes all the other people that we talk to. And they said Tessa will come back in the verse at some point. So I want to caution other players to, when something comes and goes, give room for the possibility until CIG says it's dead or it's done. Give room for the possibility that was there for us to test and for them to work on, and maybe bring something back either similar or better. Now, if they bring something back worse, to your point, if hover mode comes back and it's a terrible, or it lost something, then yeah, I get it. I just think that there are things that will come back. I think also when we start talking about the 1.0 delivery, because one of the big questions is what is that going to mean? What is that going to include? I don't think that 1.0 is going to have everything. I think 1.0 will have enough of, and I'm just using a random thing here. So y'all, this is just a random number. Let's say there are 20 things you can do in Star Citizen. I'll say 1.0 will have 10 of them. And then like Eve, they will continue to build out and expand, but they won't be testing at that point. There won't be this alpha dynamic. They will have the technology down that when they want to bring in a new career or a new mechanic, they'll work on it and they'll implement it over time. I don't expect all 20 on day one.
I'm not sure if 1.0 would be a benchmark of content as much as it would be a benchmark of stability.
Yes, exactly. We're on the same page with that. Absolutely. The game is commercially stable, playable, marketable, and whatever those 8 or 9 things are that we do in the world, we do them, and they make the world. You can live in the world. You can live in the world. Yes,
90% of the time.
Yes. You can live in the world at that point and you can play the game. You can play game loops and not run into blocks. The different trades or careers will complement each other, but that leaves room for them to expand into greater and deeper things later. But that's my interpretation of what CIG is doing, But I agree with you, Togi. I do think that that's why I always try to make sure when I say not the game for you, I'm not saying it like, well, it's just not the game for you. Because I put myself into that category.
It's one of those.
That's how people come off
so often.
Yeah, they do. They put it down as a condescending thing, and that's why I said even for me, I have to face the reality of will Star Citizen be the game even for me later. Yeah. That's the reality. I'm not blinding myself to, regardless of the time and money and relationships. Yeah, I still have to live with that. Is it a real question? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and at the same time, the people who do enjoy it, the people who don't enjoy it can't just scream at the people who do enjoy it to stop having fun.
Yeah. It's a weird space.
This is the reality of buying something in early dev.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, you've got to be able to look at things, like Jade's saying, where hover mode was crap. The way that they implemented it was crap, right?
But the idea,
in theory, I like the idea, right? Because it would, keep spaceships from being just floating turrets.
Yep.
Right. Yep. And I understand that things needed to change. And that's why I can stay in the project.
Yeah.
But if somebody didn't share that, if they were like, like Jade, Jade wants more science stuff. If they get rid of all the science stuff, I'm not just going to yell at Jade. It's, it's not the game for you then.
Right.
I'll be like, I'm sorry that you didn't get the game that you paid for.
Right.
That was ultimately promised to you by the CEO, by the president of CIG.
Yeah.
By Chris Roberts himself.
Yep.
In a pretty explicit way.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, buddy. Thank you much. Good thoughts. Alrighty, Togi bringing the real. Let me bring in Admiral Kusanagi, and we're going to get to our next subject after Volt. Admiral.
Good afternoon, sir.
Howdy, you're not in the car today. Wow. Okay.
I know I'm not in the car today. I'm at home. Can
What
we
you
all
got?
agree that if Griff was a Muppet, that he's probably closer off to Rolf, the piano puppet? That's what I'm thinking anyway.
I don't know if half the people in this room have even seen the Muppets, so you might be once you might getting like fast car.
The Muppet movie is a fantastic movie.
It is. It's a great movie. Muppet Christmas is even better.
Well, you get the adult piano thing in it because you like music and all that, and you play music.
So, what are your thoughts?
I want to touch base on the hover mode. Real quick, they said that flight hover mode wasn't good for their game, but they've changed and they will change the flight mechanics. So at a time, they may say, "Hey, now we've got the flight mechanics. Thrusters work the way we want them. The VTOLs work the way we want them. We can put hover mode back in." That's the way. That's a possibility. Now, regarding this thing, it can be the game for you now, but it may not be the game for you later. And on the reverse, it also could be the game for you later, but certainly not the game for you now.
Yeah, that's what Kai was saying. Yep.
Yeah, right. Now, to quote this guy, not the game that they said they would make. I'm like, Jay Voodoo mentioned research. You know, they have 10 for the Chairman out there. They have Wingwings Hanger. They have Around the Verse. They haven't really gone away from those directions. Like when you look at what they talked about, and we talked about this before, like subcomponents and components, like subcomponents that go inside of a component. That kind of just got lost and out there. Like, oh, what you mentioned me forgetting about it, and I was like, I had to like dig for it. I'm like, I know I've seen this someplace. Let me track it down, and then sure as hell, I found it, and I was like, oh crap, yeah. So all the stuff that they've talked about in the past, they're building upon. It takes the game to get to a point where they can put it into play. To say, hey, this thing that we talked about in 2014, now we can do it and put that into game. And so that's the game of the future. This is the stuff that we're getting in the future. And if you think that this is the game for you that you like playing now, you like the way it's going now, it might not be the game for you. And you could be 10,000 in the hole, you could be 20,000 in the hole, and you're just going to have to be like, hey, it was like any other stock thing that you're out there and you just lost out. Now the idea is that we talk in Soul Citizens and everything. We have a great time in chat and talking stuff like that. This is a great. I mean, we're literally playing the game right now in its current form, and I think we've all paid for to use it in its current form. Yeah. So it's. I mean, we're making a community out of it right now. Yeah. And I think that's the game that we're playing. And if it turns into something else, then it turns into something else. But we're on for the ride. Yeah. And but I think if you're not doing your research and you get in this game, you're doing yourself a disservice. Because in the end, it's your wallet. And if you want to be frivolous with your wallet, then hey, you're just being frivolous with your wallet. If you have an expectation of this is what potential, what they're looking to do, then and you're okay with that, spending money on like that, even if it's just $45, then it's on you. But many people have gotten into this game when they were in their 20s or whatnot, or younger or even older, without as many responsibilities that they had back then. And again, like I said, maybe it's not a game for you in the future because maybe now you have a 10-year-old, you've got a 10-year-old, you got an 8-year-old, now you have kids and you're not some college kid. So with more time or whatnot. So it's life can change the way you're going to react to what the
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Admiral. Good thoughts. To Admiral's point, that's a tough one. Not many of us wait around for years and years and years. Let me say it a different way. Not many of us have to worry about years and years passing and that my life might change before I can play this game. I mean, we joke around about it, but there's really not too many games. We see a game, we see the preview at a game show, and it'll be coming out the next year, or within 2 years. And so we kind of can project a little bit, 2 years from now, okay, I'll be playing a game. I don't think anybody ever has a situation where it's like, 10 years from now, let's project where I'm going to be and what my life is going to be like, and I'm going to be ready. That's a different type of thing. It is different. I don't think as long as I've been gaming, I've never had that experience before. I knew I'd be in retirement, but pretty soon I'm going to be on Social Security. I wasn't thinking that, I'll be collecting Social Security by the time I'm playing this game, So yeah, it's interesting that much time can go by. Let me go get Volt in, and then I'm going to share my thoughts, and we're going to move on because we are running a little bit behind today. Voltus, how are you?
Doing good.
Good, buddy.
So we're still on like the game is not for you because it's like a 5-second delay for me.
Yes, we
I
are.
don't know if you. Okay. So yeah, I kind of don't. I really don't like that argument. One, because of like a few reasons. One, the game's in, or like what we are now is in perpetual development. Like we are seeing what currently Rockstar was doing maybe like 5 or 6 years ago with GTA or Red Dead. We're seeing like the inner machinations of what actually goes on behind closed doors in a development studio. So it's like we're not even technically playing a game. We have tier 0 components of what could become a game.
Yeah.
But we don't really have like a true quote unquote finished product. So saying like, oh, the game is not for you right now just doesn't really make sense, because it is like, it's one, not complete. It's not a complete game. And I mean, most games coming out now aren't complete, but still it's like we're not like even 1.0. We're not like all the way done to initial release. And even after initial release, there's going to be a bunch of iterations upon it. So there's that. And I mean, I think a lot of us in the community just sort of shoehorn in what we want because we experience something that they want to test, see if it works, see how it fits into their overall vision. And then if the vision changes a bit because like, we have to kind of get either more realist, or we have to like take a step back and actually assess this realistically, like, can we get this done? Sometimes they have to change things or slightly augment things, and it's like there's this crazy idea of like what they thought of and then what they're actually able to do. And I think we kind of get into that thing ourselves. It's like, oh, this is what I expect to have happen. This is the kind of experience I think I'm going to have. And I mean, it's a crazy thing that we can come up with, like our brain is able to come up with these ideas that we have, but I mean, we don't know what they're actually thinking and what kind of compromises they have to make between what they want or what they even have in their mind for what the game is or will be. And so we don't know those kinds of thoughts and compromises that they need to make so that we can get the game that ultimately becomes Star Citizen.
Yeah. No, those are good points. I think this is where it does become difficult. The marketing side of this is because CIG will say it's a game. That's how they'll declare it. It's a game. Them saying it's a game, them saying playable now, for me are hurdles, right?
Yeah.
For me being on this side and understanding everything, I don't have a problem with it because I understand, but I do have a problem with it if I wasn't on this side, that other people, when you're talking to gamers, mind you, and I know that I understood what Admiral was saying about people doing their due diligence, but I kind of see due diligence as being a hopeful thing in a world where people are less and less about critical thinking. People are very reactionary, and the marketing makes people very reactionary. And so there's nothing, when I watch a playable now video, when Star Citizen puts out a 3.24 playable now, the first thing that pops in my mind is not, let's go research that. The first thing that pops up to me is, where's the website and how can I get it? You know what I mean? Because it's very powerful. The marketing's very powerful. And there's this tightrope that CIG walks. They have several tightropes for me. Some of the tightropes are nothing more than the thing we click on when we purchase something in the game. One of the examples that I was going to use was when the Avenger was first designed, the Titan. Some of you may remember back in the day that the Titan was also going to be a 2-seater. It was a 2-seater. Then they did some work and did some development, and they removed the 2 seats. Some of you may remember that the Titan was supposed to be modular. This was supposed to be one ship, and you could take the jail cells out of it. And then they changed that and they did variants. Now, is that because modularity wasn't in place at the time and the pipe system and all that wasn't together? So in order to continue to bring in revenue, they decided to do, 3 variants. And later, when modularity is solid, they will make the Titan so that it's modular. Maybe that will be the plan later. Maybe it won't. Maybe it will stay the way it is. Will there ever be a 2-seater? Maybe there will. Maybe there won't. But my point is that clause that's there makes it a tightrope for them. Because if I bought the Titan or I got drawn into this game because the Titan was supposed to be a 2-seater in modular, and I've sat here for 10 years and it's not there, it's not modular, I got to buy a variant and I can only put myself in it, I might feel a certain kind of way. Not understanding development, right? Understanding development, if I understand development, I might say to myself, for game balance, and as things have grown, they may realize that it's better for it not to be a 2-seater because there are other ships that they've made who are 2-seaters. Maybe it's better that this is not modular because we have other ships now that have developed that. So there's so much of a tightrope where it could swing to the left or to the right, right? That tightrope is something that they have to walk. And sometimes it swings left. We like it. Sometimes it swings right. They don't like it. So while you're in here, Volt, because I'm going to move to the next topic. While you're here, I'm going to share this with you. And this is what my next top of it was. It was called the Duality of Star Citizen. We're not going to really talk about this because we've gone over time a little bit, but I do want to share this with Volt while he's in here with me. And what it says on the left side is, even if half of it comes out next year, it's going to be amazing for Star Citizen. Yes! 9 months later, 60% has already been released. Scam. Right? Our community is also swings left and right, right? People who feel one way on this side, one way on the other side, right? Sometimes we're cheering and we're excited. Then there are other times where we swing the other way and there's disappointment. And that's another weird balance for us as a community in Star Citizen, is how even we respond to it. So I don't know. I've said this zillions of times on this show. I can't wait to see the documentary on how this was made. I can't wait to see, just like how we have these conversations, I can't wait to see the roundtable discussions that they have internally, where they've struggled, where they have argued, where they have agreed. I'm not sure what the best way is to do this. And let me share this last thing. Volt, thank you. I want to share that with you. I'm going to bring Kimmy in a second also, because I just saw him step in and I want to get him in here. Thanks, Volt. Let me share this with you guys before I bring Kimmy in. I looked up some research, right? And this was just crazy research, but it popped in my head. We always heard this thing about Thomas Edison inventing the light bulb, right? And, he says, oh, I didn't fail 10,000 times. It took 10,000 to get it right. But I looked it up because I always thought that was just some bogus conversation that people were saying, common phrase. Anyway, he worked on the light bulb from 1878 to 1880, 2 years. And he did his records say that he tried 2,774 times to do the light bulb. Now, making the light bulb isn't my focus here. My focus on this is about innovation, about doing something that has never been done before. And if it took Edison 2 years by himself in 2,774 times to try to make that happen, that's a pretty interesting perspective. Would people have said to Edison, you should have did that in 6 months? Maybe if he was inventing something that already existed. And I think sometimes the community, we base our timelines based upon what we already have and what we're familiar with and the technology that exists. But and I'm saying if, guys, because I don't know what's behind the curtain with CIG. If CIG is trying to create something that is above and beyond what we have ever done, not just different, but I mean literally something that is a change in the way gaming is done, then that's innovation. And unfortunately, trying to track innovation down to a time frame and saying this should have been done by becomes a difficult argument. I'm not saying it can't be argued to a certain degree, but I often have to think there must be reasons why certain things are the way they are. Now, some people may say it's due to lack of talent, or maybe because of lack of finances or bad management. If those are factors, then absolutely, they're legitimate factors as to why time could be wasted. But if management is being done well, if time is being managed well, if the talent is there, then the other option is that the hurdle is difficult. And that becomes another stretch. Let me bring Kimmy in. And then, like I said, I got to move on to our next topic, but I don't want to miss Kimmy. Hey, Kimmy.
07, Griff.
How are you, buddy? Good. How are you, man? Good to hear you.
Man. Great talking points, man.
Sure.
I'll just share this, be quick. Too. You know, in the climate that we're in, there's so many absolutes, and we gotta take our time, take a deep breath, and listen to each other and understand some things. But this is a game about, you know, adults playing a game. It's your approach, and I'll just say this: I've learned to look at the development, understand what it's about, go by what they, you know, what they show me, look at the things that they want to present, and I'll keep it with a grain of salt, as opposed to having an absolute about one little detail here, one little detail there. It's about development. Development means change. So I take it based on that. And if it changes and go in a different direction, that's fine. They're not beholding you to say, stick to this or hold me to that. Or if it goes in this direction, then I have to make a judgment. It's not done. Let's wait for the process to work itself out. But if you want to tap out, that's fine. It's great. It's no problem. But you're not going to shame me for making my choices. Respect my choices. I respect your choices. But I'm continually having fun with this game.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah. You've been in how long?
That's all I'm going to say.
Sure. Kimmy, how long have you been in now? You've been in since when? What year did you jump in?
And this is funny. September 20th. 2013. And before that, I was watching a little earlier. And at that one point, when I said, I'm pulling the trigger, man, I'm jumping in. I saw that constellation and that the hangar module. I jumped in, and it's been fun ever since.
So you just had your anniversary yesterday then. That's crazy. That's ironic. That's crazy. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. All right, bro. Thanks for coming in and sharing those words, man. Appreciate you. Okay.
Keep doing great content, Griff.
Thanks,
Keep
brother. You too, man.
Thank you.
All right. We'll talk soon. All right. Kimmy's a good guy, y'all. Make sure y'all check out Kimmy65. Check him out. Okay. We are right at the top of the hour. Normally, you guys know we do these about 30, 40 minutes, and we took an hour almost on this whole topic. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. And then when we come back, we're going to take a look at a video, and then we're going to present the question for the day for you guys. But yeah, let's take this quick commercial, and then we'll be right back. 1 minute commercial. Okay. Hello, everybody. If you are watching me, that means you are a supporter of the Soul Citizens. And as always, thank you guys so much for the support, financial support, your presence being here. When you tweet for us, when you send stuff back out on Instagram, we really appreciate it. The next thing we're going to be doing actually is watching another video. I normally don't do this on Saturdays. I did it last week, and I said it was the only time I was going to do it, but I'm going to do it one more time this week. And it's going to be the ISC video that we watched the other day, because I really want to talk about this subject when I was talking about things being game changing and innovating. And the topic of this week's ISC is one of those things that I want to highlight for that. So that's what we're going to be delving into in just a couple of seconds after that. And then the last topic we're going to talk about is the title of today's show, A Pioneer Want One, Be One. So that's going to be our other one. So stick around. Hope you guys are enjoying the show, and we are back in just 3 seconds. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Let's go ahead and jump into our next topic, because this one's going to be a video. Last week, I was just sharing with our subscribers that last week I showed a video clip on the Zeus, and it was because, well, I was just focusing in on something in relation to that. But normally on our Thursday show with Fastcart, he does the reviews of ISC and SCL. I don't want to get into the habit of doing it, but this week's ISC to me was pertinent to today's subject matter, and I wanted to be able to talk about the show from Thursday. So there was a lot of information in there. It's only, I think, like 12 minutes long. So we're going to watch that video, and then we're going to come back. Those of you who may not have seen it, great. If you saw it already, it'll be a great refresher for the questions I'm going to be asking later. So let's go ahead and watch a little bit of this Inside Star Citizen Alpha 4.0 engineering, and let's jump into it.
Engineering, the next major step forward in multi-crew gameplay. built on top of the in-development resource networking system, itself a harbinger of fire and a new reality for all life aboard spacecraft. It's been the subject of CitizenCon presentations, Q&As on Star Citizen Live, explorations on Inside Star Citizen, and fervent discussion by many of the content creators in our community. And on this final episode of ISC before hiatus and we turn all of our attentions towards CitizenCon, we invited Torsten, Bastian, and Guillermo to update us once again on the current intention and implementation of engineering, and what you can expect when the first iteration makes its way into the persistent universe.
Resource Network enables us to actually give you the gameplay that you were always looking for, which is having meaningful multi-crew gameplay, which means that it really makes sense to have multiple people running around on your ship, and that wouldn't be possible without the Resource Network.
So I would say the Resource Network is a system that allows all the items and components that are part of the ship to talk to each other.
Every ground vehicle, every base, everything that runs in Star Citizen with resources.
Fundamentally, Resource Network is a replacement for the pipe system we had in the past that you may have heard about.
Which was a similar system, basically doing most of what we are doing right now with the Resource Network, but in a way that was not as scalable as what we intend to do.
Landing complete.
So right now we just have one type of hydrogen fuel, but if we want to extend that in the future to having like multiple types that have some specific benefits on the thrusters, it's very easy now to add that resource. It's just a data setup.
So Resource Network is the underlying technology for the system to work, and engineering is the gameplay we intend to have on top of this technology so that players may experience it.
Your ship flies because, the thrusters get fueled, the power plants output power that the weapons and the sails and also the thrusters use. Engineering is all about both maximizing the use you get out of the Resource Network and also getting the Resource Network itself going so that you're not dead in the water.
It's all things that players will be able to interact with. They will have to dedicate roles in their ships so that crew members are assigned to fixing those issues, and they can encounter more dynamic situations that will not happen in the previous systems.
The goal right now is to have all the components on the ship being physicalized. That means that the things that will take damage will be the components. That then means that those components are reasons to the failure of your ship.
We have the power plants, which generate the energy that your ship consumes. You have the shield generators, which take in some of that energy to convert it to shield power. You have a radar system that allows you to target the signatures of ships around you. You have coolers that generate a coolant resource.
It is all the weapons that you have, it's the quantum drive, but there are also new components that will be added to the mix, and that is the relay with its fuses. Then there's the life support generator. The biggest thing we are aiming for is switching from your health pool of the bespoke ship to just moving that completely over to the physicalized component. So damaging the component is damaging your ship. I think this is the part where the biggest change for the players happen, because there the gameplay of repair comes in, and then you can revitalize your ship. So you can actually use your formerly dead in the water ship after exchanging or repairing the components. Well, we mentioned one of the new components, which is the life support generator. So let's talk about life support.
The life support does all the tasks necessary to maintain the life support inside the ship.
So it's the temperature, it's the atmosphere composition, it's the pressure inside the room. Your main responsibility is making sure that there's always enough life support resource produced to maintain a healthy atmosphere in the ship. So making sure that all the CO2 that you breathe out is actually converted into O2 again. or if you vented a room, that the room is filled again. If your room is getting too hot, it's cooled down again. So it's all about managing this resource inside the rooms. And as already mentioned in the previous episodes, it's life support management is also a good way to counter fire. Another aspect the players have to counter or react to is misfires on components.
Misfires are something that is already in the game in some form. Thruster charges, steel generator failure, stuff like that. We're just expanding it a bit, and pretty much the idea is that, items that are damaged, that are too hot, or that, for example, are very old and degraded, will start misfiring. In some cases, that will be that it will take some extra damage. In other cases, it will be that they will stop working for a while. Other times, they will work indefinitely until an engineer comes by and manages to do some repairs. And some of the worst cases would be starting a fire, or in the case of, for example, power plants, engaging in a critical reactor failure and taking the ship with them.
There is a chance that if the power plant reaches 0 health, it will run into a critical failure, and that critical failure then will cause the entire ship to explode. It will give the player the time frame to react to that, so either by removing the component and throwing it out of the door and preventing your ship to explode, or even countering it by repairing the component and bringing it up to life again. For the initial release, we have a limited amount of misfires, but we are preparing the system, or we did prepare the system to scale well for the future, so we can introduce multiple misfires, and that leads us to damage penetration.
So damage penetration is a simplified version of what we'll be getting eventually with a more physicalized system, but essentially what it means is that now certain types of weapons can penetrate through the hull of a ship. This is a function of the weapon itself, its penetration values, and also of the armor of the ship, which can be depleted over time.
So if you use ballistics, you have a higher penetration, which allows you to cut through the armor more deeply and touch the components inside the ship directly. As opposed to this, you also have energy weapons, which will be more effective at melting down the armor.
The goal here is that you first need to bring down the armor health value to get to the fullest potential of your penetrating weapons. Then you can penetrate the ship and actually damage the components that sit inside the ship and not on the outside of the hull.
Obviously, there's degrees to this. Larger ballistic weapons may have enough penetration against smaller ships that it will be able to penetrate directly, but it's all of a game of choices, and it's going to depend on your ships and your weapons.
So with damage penetration and misfires happening, that brings us to repair.
As your fight progresses and components take damage in your ship, it becomes the duty of some of your crew members to first investigate what are the issues caused by battle damage, and go there to physically replace the parts in your ship.
So you have your multi-tool, so you have the salvage and repair, and the repair part of it also affects now ship components, precisely like what you see in the Arena Commander mode. You will be able to repair items that were fully destroyed. You will not be able to repair the item to its fullest, so you cannot repair an item that got fully destroyed to 100% health again. So to repair your ship components to the fullest, you actually have to bring them to the shop again and do the station repair. Or if you did think ahead and brought spare items with you, you can simply exchange them to pristine new ones. But with the caveat, it only works, just as a reminder, for size 1 and size 2 components. Size 3 and above cannot be exchanged using the tractor beam detach and attach mode. So now that we looked at what your responsibilities are in the physical space running around in your ship, let's take a look at what you do on the virtual part, which is power management and analysis of your ship on the engineering screen. So the first thing that you will see is the 3D view of your ship that highlights the location of all the ship components and how they are actually connected, where the relay positions are, what's the status of the relays are. You will see the holograms of each component,
As you can see, they have different colors. What they are representing is the overall state of the item. So an item that is very damaged, or it's on fire, or it's not getting enough power will be in a critical state. Items that are less damaged, are receiving only partial resources, or are going through a misfire, may have moderate colors. And items that are otherwise fine will have the functional or blue colors.
The biggest change that happened to the engineering UI screen is basically the power management part of it. We moved away completely from slider control for every individual item. There is indicator now for fuel. This is not relevant for the initial release, but it will be relevant for the future. Next to it, you see the power plant. The power plant segments gives you an idea of how many power segments you can distribute to the ship items.
And on the right of each of the power bars, you can generally see the temperature bar. If it goes into overheating, the item will stop both consuming or producing, and it will be completely inoperable until it cools down again. So that means that assigning power to your coolers in advance is probably a good idea if you're going into a fight.
All the items on your ship generate heat, so this is where you can see the amount of heat that each item has accumulated, and you can see the amount of coolant that you are producing and whether or not you are also running a deficit. So what you want to do is put as much power as you can into the coolers until your items do not overheat, but do not assign more resources than necessary because you are running a limited pool of resources.
The same applies to the life support generators. So you have to make sure that you produce enough life support resource that the demand is fulfilled in your ship. If your demand isn't fulfilled, it will cause some failures.
There's also a notifications panel. Here the main warnings about the state of the ship will be displayed. If an item is damaged, doesn't get enough power, or is misfiring, it will create a warning. You will be able to see it as a notification. Take a look at it, go to the item, or just remove it.
So you have an option that allows you to basically log the controls so that you or the pilot, which has access to the MFD, which shares some of the power management functionality, do not conflict with your controls. So by locking this, you are able to override the MFD settings to only have it being authoritative from the engineering station.
You are able to take the power assignment you have at a given time and save it locally on your computer, meaning that when you fly again with the ship, or even if it's not your ship but somebody else's ship, you can quickly apply your presets. This is very useful in the middle of combat. You can quickly switch to a combat preset where you will give, for example, more power to shields, weapons, and thrusters. Or at the same time, you may want to have some nap mode preset where you reduce the power to everything and just put it on the bare minimum so there's no degradation or misfires related to power use.
So you can set a preset on your ship and then jump on somebody else's ship and load it up?
Indeed. Your presets are stored locally, so as long as you have access to the screen and you're using the same ship, you can apply a preset. Obviously, if the components have changed or the ship has a different loadout, the preset might not apply perfectly and you might need to adjust it, but it gives you a quick baseline on how your power is assigned.
We hope that with these changes, players will have more varied opportunities to experience the game. We'll encounter more situations where it feels relevant and enjoyable to have multi-crew gameplay in the ships, so that you do not think it's just about filling in the battle positions, like the turrets and the pilot seats, but it's more involved gameplay to actually manage your ships and try to fix the ongoing situations that occur within them. And we also hope that this makes larger vehicles, which have more interior space, both more troublesome but also more enjoyable to play with.
We are still working hard to get it done for all of you. There are ships that already have the functionality, there are still ships that we are working on, but overall we are super excited to finally get it into the PU. So the Arena Command Experimental Mode was already fun to observe what you can do with the entire system, and now with having the feedback from that, adjusting the gameplay a little from the feedback that we received from you, I am really looking forward to see what you all will be doing with it.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that there's a sweet new interface for dedicated engineering terminals aboard spacecraft. That the first implementation of armor and damage penetration means that the ways that you kill and keep your spaceships alive will fundamentally change. And that when this arrives in the PU, life aboard spaceships will never be the same again. Now, that's it for this season of Inside Star Citizen, while everybody here turns their focus towards the upcoming CitizenCon, where we'll be showcasing the future of Star Citizen beyond Alpha 4.0. Yes, it's a show you're not going to want to miss. So from the small team that makes every ISC, thank you so much for letting us stretch our proverbial wings this year. Thank you for continuing to let us share the people and process of game development with you, and we'll see you all back here after the big show. I can't believe we got to
Okie dokie, okie dokie, okie dokie. So that was the episode. Am I muted? I'm not muted, am I? No, okay, good. That's the episode on engineering. And so I want to come back to this topic with you guys. What are your feelings about engineering? And let me put this in context. I said earlier that I thought it was important that we watch this because I think that this is an integral part to bringing the game closer to what Chris Roberts has outlined he wants the game to be. When I first saw this, when we first saw engineering about a year ago or 2 years ago, I was excited about it when they talked about the mechanic and the person who's going to work the station, and it sounded great. And some people felt like it was looking pretty shallow because it was just about somebody going to a component and doing something to it, and that was it. But now, for those of you who got a chance to go into Arena Commander and test out when we were testing out the engineering tier 0 with the fuses, that was like an introduction. And the thing that probably I was most impressed with was seeing the schematic on the engineering station where you were seeing what they used to call the pipe system, but now the resource management that was tying into all the various components, the coolers, the batteries. Even though batteries aren't on, I saw the network on the screen of all this stuff. And right away, I was kind of like, wow, this is getting a little bit more complex. And then after seeing the show this week, I felt like the complexity has stepped up even more. Now, there were some people who, when they saw this, not this show, but the one before that, they weren't very happy because they felt like, if I don't have an engineer, I can't fly my ship. And CIG later came out and said, this is going to be mostly for larger scale ships that will have this level of complexity. Single-seater fighters, smaller ships won't have we won't have to worry about it as much. You can fly the ship and maybe just set everything in a nominal position and you'll be okay. And maybe there'll be some controls. We know there will be from the MFDs where there's some control you can do from there. But ships having this engineering station, the larger, the capitals, things like that, it brings a different level of gameplay. And for me, it brings finally another level of what we consider multiplayer. So far, multiplayer has been the pilot, the turret operator, and that's about it. And I've always wanted to have more than that. I want to have the engineer. I want to have this the bridge on the Enterprise, right? I want to have the engineer. I want to have the science officer. I want to have that person who's over environmental. All those stations were on the bridge, and now we're starting to see this stuff being implemented. So my question to you is this a game changer, or is it just another mechanic? And I personally feel it is a game changer. I think it's going to introduce multiplayer. Now, some people may start to feel a certain kind of way. If you get those big ships, I'm sure you're probably already wondering, am I going to be able to take my ship out now? And if that's something you're considering or concerned about, toss that out. Would love to hear it from you guys. Okay. So I've got Fist to Face here. I'm going to bring him in and let's see what Fist thinks about what he saw today. Fist? He's muted. Let's see if he unmutes. If not, I'm going to bring. Oh, there he goes. All right.
Bad. Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
No problem.
I'm talking and I was muted. All right.
No worries.
But yeah, in my opinion, I think it is a game changer. You hit on a good point. I don't think it's a game changer to a thing, maybe because I haven't played space games where you in a ship like this, but
Okay.
as far as multiplayer and being in a ship together and being able to do things together, but I think it's a game changer for, like you said, for this game, that it makes you have to now really understand the consequences, right? And like you said, I have a big ship. I can't just take this big ship out and operate it alone. Now, matter of fact, excuse me, let me rephrase it. I can take it out,
Right.
but there's a big risk of me getting into something. Let's say you don't, come across combat, right? Let's say you're just out, whatever,
Yeah.
and something happens. How do you manage what's going on in your ship, all the way on the other side of the ship for let's just say a carrick?
Yeah.
You've got to run, get out the seat, go down the steps, go all the way down to the is the second floor or the first, I'm not sure again, and go all the way to the back of the ship to get into the engineering section. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, I think for this game, for Star Citizen, it is a game changer as to how the way we are going to have to play the game.
Okay. Okay.
And that's what was, to me, again, going to that first question, that's what was advertised.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
What I remember.
Okay.
So
fair. All right, Fist. Thank you, brother. All right, let me bring Volts in next. Volts, you there?
Yep.
Yes, sir. What you got?
So as far as like the engineering goes, one, it's a big game changer. Especially for those larger ships, as who was it? Togi was putting it. Like it'll definitely make it where not only are these bigger ships one less likely to die, because we're not going to have that soft death, full death mechanic anymore, where it's essentially you get that clue that it's dead. The only time that we're going to know is when we take out the power plant and it explodes. That's going to be our only clue that we have fully destroyed a ship. I think it will also push towards more piracy. And people like, okay, now soft deathing won't mean that essentially the ship, like, I'm more likely to board a ship. I'm going to have a lot more resistance. That makes it a bit more fun, a lot more worth it to try and take somebody else's cargo, but it definitely makes it like a little bit more interesting, where essentially you're like, you have to hit the cockpit, like the bridge, depending on the size of the ship. Like you have to be hitting that to make sure that at least the pilots are dead once you get the armor down. I also like what they're doing with armor, because it seems like it's a bit more forward thinking than some of the other systems.
Yeah.
A lot of these systems weren't forward thinking when they were implementing them, to where it's like, okay, we want to eventually get to position, like we're starting at position A, we want to get to position B. Well, we need to have stuff tested, so we'll put stuff in, but that stuff then needs to be removed and reiterated and like remade so that it works for when we get to point B. I really like that they are including armor as a component for now before it becomes fully physicalized with Maelstrom. And they mentioned that in the video. I did not catch that on like the first two watchings, that they're like, yeah, we're having armor in this function until we have it more physicalized.
Yeah.
So I think it will also lead into the issue of like vehicle balance, because currently like vehicles are just have really weird balancing. They've always been balanced for like in the moment a lot of the time, or just a little bit ahead. But now, even if they balance it for armor, it might just be a little bit more tweak of the values after they get it balanced in a good state for after 4.0.
Yeah.
So if they balance it well, and then Maelstrom comes in, it's like a little bit of the tweak of values because of the physicalized armor.
Yeah.
So that forward thinking is really making me excited. But I mean, big ships, even smaller ships, are going to be more risky now, because it's like a it's not going to be worthwhile to bring out a Corsair unless you have like at least 2 turret gunners. And if one of them serves as an engineer or just a dedicated engineer with 2 turret gunners, like a lot of ships are just going to become a lot more crude.
Yeah.
And so we'll either see less of them, but the ones that we do see are crude a lot more. Like a hammerhead is a big one. No, like I've seen that thing rarely taken out.
Yeah.
And when it, like most of the time you see it, it's just an NPC. And if it is like player controlled, it's like you kind of have to do a coin flip of whether it's like every single turret seat is filled up or if it's like 4 of them.
Yeah. True. That's very true.
So,
yeah, I think it will. You know, people have always said there's an argument that people want to fly their own ships. And I do understand that. People do like flying their own ships. But I think that when things become mission based, this will be a driver that will make people kind of reconsider, you know, knowing that need is there. You know, if I need for example, if I need the range and the power, flying my individual ships may not do it. You know what I mean? So the Hammerhead requires that's the ship I use versus me going out with my, I don't know, my Avenger and my whatever other ship, the Gladius or something, you know. I think that they'll start to swing the balance more where it will be a matter of consideration. Not that you can't do it with the Avenger and the Gladius, but people may find that the interaction, and I've always felt that Chris is trying to promote multiplayer gameplay. Not that it has to be there, but that's one of the things that he wants to see as a byproduct of this game. And that's why multi-crew is important, that he wants players to play together, cooperate. We've gotten so much into competitive play that we've almost forgotten what cooperative play is like, to me, in gaming, you know. And to be able to do something together as a group and succeed can be just as rewarding as when you're out there and you accomplish it, you know, by yourself. But that's just in my 2 cents opinion. So thanks, folks.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Was something else you want to say real quick?
Yeah, and I mean, it'll bring more value because, like, a lot of the time you have, like, the Starfarer. When we have, like, engineering come in and, like, other big ships like the Liberator, Kraken, Idris, like, those ships, like, if you want to fly your small fighter, that may be all well and dandy. You're going to have to call up once they get refueling working, you might have to call up a other big ship that needs the multi-crew. And you can just be stationed on that ship and serve as like maybe a Marine or maybe a station officer every now and then when you don't want to go out flying. But when you do want to go do something in your small little fighter, you have it there.
Good point. Good point. All right, Bolts. Thank you, bro. You just mentioned a good point, too. For those of you who have single seat fighters like your Gladius or whatever other ship it is, I suggest that you go buy your component, your cooler, your quantum drive, whatever, and see if it fits in your ship's storage bay. How about that, right? Because I need to do that. Does my quantum drive fit in my storage bay? So in case my quantum drive blows out or misfires or isn't working, I know I could repair it possibly, but just in case, you know, it might be worth seeing. Is that sucker big enough? You know, we've been worried about inventory for putting guns and clothes and all this other stuff, which is fine. But, you know, you might be thinking about survivability now way more, you know, and can I put, you know, my cooler in there just in case? All right. Let me bring in the man himself, Togi. Let's bring him in real quick. Hey, Togi.
What up?
There he is.
So, it's definitely game changing,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
I'm more worried about it being game breaking.
Okay.
All right, like under this model, and again, like I come at this as somebody who is mostly interested in PvP. Okay, this is going to make component placement a meta-defining feature of ships, and I don't know how much thought CIG has put in to where components go in ships. And there's a lot of ships that all those components are all clustered together.
True.
There's some
some are spread out.
Spread out.
Yeah.
And which one's going to end up being the meta, and how much CIG
that's a good point
is going to be willing to go in and say, okay, this ship isn't isn't performing right. So take the Gladius, because it's got its coolers and its shields all on the top spine, right? Which is gonna make it so that if you're a Gladius pirate, you're, or a Gladius pilot rather,
right,
you're not gonna want to pull, into a circle fight with somebody pulling positive G's
and targeting the top.
Yeah, because then you're exposing your back to the enemy. You don't want to do that. You're going to be wanting to pull negative G's, and it's going to make the whole thing awkward. You're going to lose visibility that way. Are they going to say, okay, cool, we're going to armor the spine more? Are they going to say, hey, okay, we're going to take those components that were on the top and let's move them to the bottom?
Yeah. That's a good point. No, I think that's a really good point. Yeah. And you even from the other thing I picked from what you were saying was, and I know we talked about this back when the Idris first came into the game and when I did my walkthrough on the Idris, and I was just talking about the complexity dynamic of, knowing that ship well as an engineer. Now, the one good thing that I do like is the fact that screen, if you've got somebody at that screen, even if you have somebody who doesn't know everything, I could always say port side, third deck, rear, and hopefully that person gets that it's on the left side,
Well, I mean, that's something else that they could do with that mini map feature. If you could ping the component that you want them to go to,
that'd be cool.
And they just get a map marker for it.
That would be cool.
Hugely useful.
That would be cool.
Your head engineer do.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Super cool.
That would be cool. Yeah, and there's no reason why they couldn't do like you said, just highlight it and that person knows. That would be cool. But again, this is evolving, and I think you should, Togi, put that in the development. I think on Spectrum, I think that's a great idea. That's something like that would be helpful.
One of those things that, because again, the ships are built.
Once
it's in our hands and we see how it works.
Yeah.
We'll
know then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the resource, I think that your suggestion for the resource network, being able to add that while they're building out the resource network, I still see that something that they could implement. At some point. Totally. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea.
They've already got the ability to, to ping your own map. So it shouldn't be a huge deal to be able to ping other people in your party's maps either. Share way markers and that kind of stuff.
Yep. That's a great idea. All right, buddy. Thank you much. All right. I'm going to bring in Pops in Space, and then I'm going to bring in Captain Serious Fun and close out. Pops.
Yeah. Can you hear me, girl?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. This is RPG. It goes into role playing. You're not just a person that's walking around with a bunch of fuses in your pocket and just popping them in. It's cooperative.
Yeah.
It's like you mentioned, you may have on a big enough shift like a Jap, you probably I would think you would have a chief engineer. Or maybe one or two or something like that.
Yeah.
For such a large ship.
Yeah.
And, they're going to need to, like Togi said, they're going to need to direct people here, there. And it's not just necessarily that something that is going to happen in battle, but engineering would be something that, check this, make sure this is a component.
Yeah.
See what its lifespan is right now. Keep an eye on it. Those type of things. Training going on with NPCs and other players. So this, you're right. It's a big change. It's a big step into a living space universe.
Okay. All right. Good stuff, Pops. Thank you, man. All right. Last but not least, I'm going to bring in Captain Serious Fun. Cap, you there? Captain Serious, calling Captain Serious Fun.
Gaming.
There he is. How are you, buddy?
How are you?
Good. I'm doing good.
Game changer.
Okay.
Multiplayer cooperative play. Game changer.
Okay.
Stealth play. Game changer. Tactical squad play. Game changer.
Okay.
Diversity of mission type offerings as a result. Game changer.
Okay. All right.
This is a game changer that we've been waiting for. And people need to stop acting like with this ISC, CIG hasn't moved the game materially forward. It's a game changer.
Okay. All right.
Every vehicle, every location, because they said every base.
Yeah.
Right? Something to engage with, something to manage. Every spaceship, every vehicle, every base, your base. When we get to base building, you're going to have to manage the resource network. Also, these dudes are fans of The Expanse, as everyone should be, by the way. But you can tell that these dudes are fans of The Expanse because what are they giving us that hadn't really been talked about? Damage penetration.
Yeah.
Right. There's a scene in The Expanse, I'm not going to ruin it, where the consequence of ballistic penetration is an iconic, unforgettable, lets you know anyone you can die scene.
Yeah, it's the truth. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A few people had plot armor.
Yeah.
And it made space flight visceral.
Yeah.
And felt and added a level of realism and drama. Damage penetration is a game changer.
Yeah. For me to cut you off here, Chris did that in his letter for the chairman. Remember, not letter for chairman. Remember he did that response to Cameral, and he talked about what happens when you have that ballistic that pierces through the armor and cuts through one of the circuit lines or something like that in the resource thing.
That's right.
And he talked about the vacuum. Like you said, the impact of that is way more than just, like you said, targeting a component. There's a lot that can come from that. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah.
Life support.
Yes.
I'm waiting to hear. I mean, I love the mechanic. I'm waiting to hear about what will allow one to sit in what seat. Right? Because I think the thing that they're holding off on telling us is the backpacks and sitting down.
Yeah.
All types of armor and sitting down.
Ain't happening.
That's coming to an end.
Right.
And there's going to have to be a lot more discernment. Right? Around what do my engineers have on and where do they sit when I accelerate? How do I let people know we're going to acceleration or we're in emergency maneuvers? All those things. The CIG thoughts on where components go in the ship, to Toki's point, I'm more interested in where we're going to have to end up going to get components for ships.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There are incredible mission opportunities to take elite level components or military components and place them behind other forms of engagement, like rep max in any discipline.
Yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden you find out about those other components that have these other features. And finally, Tony, let me just, this is what I do mostly in life, is just say what Griff says in life. But let me say this. The engineering ping idea, if you don't hit Spectrum, I will. But if you do, I'll upvote that like a mother. Let's go. Game changer.
That's real quick. Stick with me for a second here, Cap, because I want to cover my last topic with you. And then if anybody wants to come in, they can. There are several games that resource management is not new. Right. We were just recently, some of us in the group were playing Star Trek Bridge Crew just recently. And one of the things that's so fun about that game.
Where was I?
Dude, I don't know where you were, but we had a good time. We had a good time. It was me, Zombie Pig, Colossal, and Nihilus. And we were playing the game and we were having fun as usual. Nihilus was our weak link. Yes, Nihilus, you were the weak link. Because Nihilus didn't go in and he didn't get to refresh his memory on the tutorial. I had time, so I got a chance to very quickly take on for navigation. But it was interesting that because he was still trying to figure it out, but the rest of us had done the tutorial, that link is what held us up, right? He was over tactical. And so, I was over navigation. I think Zombie Pig was doing engineering. And it's going to be important in cooperative play that people kind of know what their role is, right? And if not, you have to make sure you prepare, or even the depth and level that you want to go into. I was thinking about the game Artemis also, which has been around a long time. A lot of people play Artemis. It's kind of like that very first kind of Star Trek simulation game where you had multi-people and everybody took on a role, and you could be Scotty, you could be Chekhov, whatever.
It's centered on this idea.
It is. So my point is that level of resource management in a space game is not new. What is new, and to your point, what is the game changer, is the level of opportunity, complexity, and depth that CIG, once again, when we talk about innovation, we're talking about not just doing something differently, but we're talking about literally changing the way something is done. And this goes to the level of also our level of gameplay, skill-based knowledge, and everything else that comes along with that. So for me, one of the things, and by the way, because Togi mentioned some great points earlier about, we were talking about the evolution of development, and Kimmy did as well. Another example, remember I gave the example about how the Avenger used to be a 2-seater, now it's a 1-seater. Now some people may see that as a negative. When we saw the last thing on engineering, and they showed us the Fury coming inside of the ship and being changed out, they said that if your component hit 0, it would be no good. In here, they changed it. And now they said if your component hits 0, you can repair it now. You can't bring it back. Right. Exactly. This is an example of when we talk about development changing. Right. And sometimes when CIG says something like then, but evidently somebody, whether it was from the community or they themselves, once they started doing it, or their Q&A people, somebody said, hey, this might be too much. We think that, yes, the component should hit 0, be inoperative, but if necessary, it should be able. And I can understand why they did that, because on ships that have ships like quantum drives, right? If that thing hits 0 and you can't move it anymore, and on the big ships, you can't even swap it out, you're dead in the water. Totally dead in the water, right? So they
right,
maybe
unless you have a crucible that can, and maybe they figure that out.
Come in, right. So maybe that's just for now. Right? Maybe that's just for now. Maybe for now, it won't be completely dead because we can't swap out that quantum drive that's in that M2, right? That we'd have to take it in for that. And to your point, you just said it, Admiral, because maybe we can't get that ship into a facility right now because it's not in the game. That's the way it is. Now, later, when there are facilities and crucibles and everything else, who knows? It may be a situation where now when that quantum drive hits 0, it's no good. So it could change again. So this is why we have to be flexible with development so we can be seeing these type of things. Now, I'm going to present this last thing to you, Cap, and then we're going to go to the next subject. I know I got a couple. Well, okay, I got Fist. I already had you, and I got to speed it up, buddy. Unless you want to come in on the second part of this, but Admiral, I'm going to get you in here. I'll tell you what, Cap, let me get them in, and then I'll come back to you. Is that okay? Because I want to hit you on this last subject here. So let me bring Admiral Kusanagi in because he was next. Admiral, you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Yes, sir. What you got?
Okay, I know you're stressed for time, but first of all, this is a great way to kind of get people into multi-game play.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, to go off of this is the poopy pants changing is what this is. I know Serious Fun was talking about change, and that's what would be changing a lot of poopy pants. People are gonna be all pissed off and like and saying crap at Spectrum and stuff like that, and they got to change their diapers later on. But definitely, this is gonna get people better understanding of the concept of what a large ship is going to need.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said it earlier. They said PMS. I think they were talking about PMCS. So that's in the military. They use preventative maintenance checks and services. So that's when you go over, say, a Humvee or a tank or something larger like an aircraft, and you're doing all your checks before you even leave the station. You even do your thing.
That's right.
So, and if something's broken, you fix it then. You don't fix it when you're out there and you're like, oh crap, I should have replaced this 2 days ago.
Right.
So you do it beforehand.
Right.
And in the sense that they're talking about in the video, they're like, yeah, you actually might want extras. You might want to bring some extra stuff to replace something. So yeah, you would need I know that Navy vessels and stuff like that, they have some repair parts, other things they have to ship in with some other ships, or aircraft carriers actually have flights that come in from land that will have parts if they're missing something.
Right.
So these are things that we have to prepare for in the future. Whether or not I haven't seen them talk about the two-handed tractor being used to repair things. I know that can be used to repair hulls right now, but perhaps for tier 3 and tier 4 components that would actually work a little bit better for those. Certainly they have the ability to put in game larger equipment that would be more specific to repair that, specifically the subcomponents we talked about earlier slightly.
Right.
So this is just again, this is where we're going, for the game that's coming and not for the game right now, which people have been playing. And if they don't like this, then they better get an idea of what the game is going into. So
yeah, absolutely. Good
that's
stuff,
all I wanted
Admiral.
to say.
Yeah, and I remember we talked about that, what's going to happen later on with permissions if you've got like the larger ships like the Javelin or the Idris. In normal situations, your engineer would be on that ship an hour or two ahead of time, making sure everything's together before the crew comes on. So I'm curious to see whether or not they start granting permissions in a way that people can have a ship out. Somebody could be there preparing it, and then that way everybody's not sitting around waiting for 2 hours. You know what I mean? The engineer person who's into that will have no problem with saying, I'll be there an hour ahead of time to make sure everything's good to go when you guys get there. That's what I would love to see happen.
You talked about this yourself. You're like, one day could be, if you're doing cargo, it could be just one day be like loading up the cargo.
Yep.
So you could have like hey, everybody jump on. It's Friday night. We got to like do our PMCSs on
for tomorrow.
On the Idris or something like that, and do our repairs and, buff out this thing. And we don't know. I mean, but there's definitely going to be some level of that you have to think about to when you're going to go do stuff. Because if you do get into some crap, or if you do get into a system that has like radiation damage that you have to worry about, or anything else that they want to put in the game, then you have to your crew and your ship itself, if has to be ready to take on that challenge. And also, one thing I do want to hit up on is the captain of a ship. If you have any ship at all, if you're a captain of it, it's your ship, you should know how the heck to fix everything to a general degree. You should have an understanding
have awareness
of, that
of everything.
Your engineer could be more, precise. They could have a little more, know-how. But you should have a general idea of like how everything works and how to fix it and stuff like that. And have ideas to get around obstacles. So, yeah, that's it.
Good point. Thanks, Admiral. Good stuff. All right, let me bring in Fist to Face. I forgot that wasn't Fist who was here. That was Pops who was here earlier. Hey, Fist.
Hey, what's up, Griff? I'm gonna try to be.
No, you're good.
Quick.
You're
so
good.
My thing is, you and Kat touched on something that was very important. This is one of the things that I always looked at when I'm a very my favorite ship in the game is the Orion, big ship, right?
Right.
So my thing is I'm big on training, right? So my thing is like you talked about with Nihilus and the whole situation. Not to pick on you, Nihilus, out there, but yeah, my philosophy is, next man up, when I want to run a ship, because not necessarily that the co-pilot has to be the master of being a co-pilot, but I would at least want the co-pilot to know, hey, look, I need to know how, engineering to a degree, just in case something happens.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because that, to me, when I saw the game, when we talked about this a long time ago, made me think, damn, okay, wait a minute, preparation.
Yeah.
Training, so that's what I see the game pushing forward towards, because this seems like a prelude to me with engineering to really not just only knowing the layout of your ship, because let's say all hell breaks loose and you get into a combat and your components get damaged and now you're getting boarded. Now you got to know, I want you to know the layout of the ship so that we know choke points, so we can defend the ship.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep. Know your ship is going to be the thing. Absolutely.
Know your ship. And that's the bottom line for me.
No, good point. Good point. All right, bro. Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right.
All righty. Let's bring in Lord of the Drip. Hey, Lord of the Drip.
Hey, Griff, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. How are you, buddy?
I was doing a lot better until I actually started thinking about what this engineering is going to be.
Okay.
I was an engineer in the Navy.
Oh, okay.
Operated the electrical plant control panel, with hazards and, casualties at sea, battle situations at times. So I know what this means. And not only, I'm thinking about the prep, not only how this changes gameplay as far as people specializing in engineering and having to have not only knowledge of your ship, but I have a lot of ships, right? So that means now I'm going to have to understand engineering for each one of those ships, which is big. That changes things.
Yeah.
But also it's going to change how we can play together, because everyone's not going to be a specialist.
Right.
So whereas right now I can just hop on and four of us can come together and go run bunker missions or, go try to do blockade running or whatever. Well, now we're going to have to consider the skill sets of the people that are here.
Yeah.
because I'm not going to be able to take on certain missions that, might involve the ship taking a lot of damage if I don't have a skilled engineer.
Right.
Or so it's something really fun to look forward to, but it's also something that's going to require a greater, you're actually going to have to plan and think about this and run your ship like a real ship.
Yeah.
And like Admiral was saying, you know what? Being the captain of a big ship is going to mean something now.
Absolutely.
Because it's not just you hop on and you jump in a pilot seat and somebody else is on the turret. No, you're actually going to have somebody who's a captain who's going to have to be, in full command and control. Thinking about, what's going on. Okay, well, we got people on turrets and they're shooting. How many enemies do we have out there? What's the status of life support? What percentage of power is going, to the different components and things like that. And, so it becomes a whole lot more involved. And I keep saying I just want to be a happy space marine.
Yeah.
And I know myself. And I'm about to jump in this engineering thing. Full throttle.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And the good thing is this. There are people out there who want to do this type of stuff, right? And it sounds crazy, but I know a guy who wants to be a custodian. There are people who want to do some of these different tasks. And for some people, they may feel it's mundane. I think somebody put it in chat earlier how I forget what game it was. They said, but they were playing some game and the engine, it was one of the racing games. And they were saying that doing the engineering or mechanic stuff is very in depth and they like it, but for other people, it's boring. But I say the same thing about people piloting your ship, right? You're not going to let just anybody pilot your Idris. You know what I mean? It's got to be somebody who has some tactical understanding, understands how the ship maneuvers. There's a lot involved in something like that. And I think that engineering is going to be the same. I think medicine's going to be the same. I think your captain is going to be the same, and hopefully that will hone out, not that everybody's going to be the best at it, but the abilities are there for people to learn. And that's why it's also important that not any one person, and you know this, right? I mean, people who are movie stars will tell you that it's great that you're the star of the film, but they will tell you without that person that's the electrician or the grip or the carpenter, there's no movie. So everybody's important on the ship, right? Like you mentioned, and I'm sure with you being in the military, you understand that everybody, whether you're at the top of the deck in the con or whether you're down in freaking engineering in the fifth, deck down, everybody's important to making the operation go well. And so I hope that is one of the things that comes out of this game is that we all kind of feel like everybody contributes. Everybody's got something to do and we help each other. If somebody's deficient, if somebody doesn't know port and starboard, well, it's make sure they know what port and starboard is, left side or right side, you got to make sure that you help these people get to that place because it is going to change the way we've been playing the game. You're 100% right on that. And it's a lot to think about.
And the last thing that I would say is, and I just have to say it, I'm not trying to be cynical or a critic, but the way that we have like ship bugs lag and just kind of hang around the game for a long time. Yeah. I hope that SIG is going to have somebody dedicated to making adjustments for engineering because that would be a game killer. Yeah, in my opinion. I agree. If you rule this out, and people can't fly a ship or do missions because of this. Yeah, because of bugs.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that would be. I mean, it's like anything else. This game breaking, right? When you're trying to finish off a mission and something happens, and you've done everything you're supposed to do, or you try to, and yet and still the game disappoints you. So no, you're absolutely right. This cuts across everything in the ship. That engineering station. You know what I mean? So hopefully it's working well. Yeah. All right, buddy. Thanks a lot.
You hop on. Oh, my guns aren't firing. It says I got power.
I said I turned them on. Yeah. All right, buddy. Thank you. All right. Last but not least, and we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks, guys. You guys get some great thoughts to this. Cap, you there? I am. All right, awesome. Let me show you the final topic for today, because this was our opening topic for the show. Thank you guys for everything you guys have shared today. And again, if you guys want to come in, I'm just going to have a little banter with Cap a little bit. When we were talking about this thing about this being a game changer, recently we were having conversations about videos and whether Star Citizen is arcadey. Is it a sim? Is it some weird hybrid? What is it? And I've always tried to find what is the best for the game. Now, for me, I used to play. I don't know if you remember years ago. There was a game called Shuttle. It was the space shuttle, and it was a simulator. And dude, when you open the screen up for Shuttle, it looked like the space shuttle's controls. I mean, there were switches and dials, and back then, this is when you only had a 19-inch monitor, maybe a 23 or 22. So there was no widescreen. You know what I'm saying? It was a square. And as you guys know, the space shuttle has got there were actually like 5 different screens for it. There was the pilot side, a center console, a co-pilot side. There was an upper thing up at the top, and there was one at the bottom. And you would used to have to use your arrow keys to change. So there was never a situation where all the controls were on the screen for you at one time. Okay. The level of complexity of understanding which switches were over here on the pilot side versus what was on the co-pilot side versus what was on the center panel, which was on the it was ridiculous, but I loved it. That game would fry people's minds today. Most people would not want to do that level of simulation. That level of realism would just be too much, right?
It's the Falcon 4.0 game.
Yes,
with the manual,
yes,
right?
You remember that. Yes,
really flying an F-16.
Yes, exactly. Just like today's version of that would be almost like DCS, okay, or Tarkov. Right. You know, people, that level of simulation is. And listen, this is based on the history of games. Let's take a Kerbal Space Program. Everybody don't play Kerbal Space Program. They may have monkeyed around with it, but everybody don't
dip their toe in it.
But everybody don't play Kerbal Space Program. Not at that level that we know the potential of the game is. So Shuttle for me was like that. But I was into science and I wanted to be an astronaut. And I was around when the space shuttle took off. So it was an amazing thing to be able to step inside this quote unquote simulator, even though it probably was not a true sim, but it was the closest thing to it at that time. Now, I'd also played an arcadey version of that was on my iPad, where the shuttle just kind of falls out of a ship and all I got to do is use my fingers and do like this and make the thing land. And that was enjoyable too, especially when you touch down. You know, I didn't have to do no controls or any of that stuff. Okay.
Right.
So there's this thing.
But you knew that was the watered down fun version.
And for some people, that was nothing but a iPad game. You get where I'm going with this, okay? So where does CIG find reality? Now, I know there are people who want that full-blown sim. They want that full-blown thing. And I also know some people who that does not interest them. And my question becomes, what my point was in this engineering thing is about realism. You mentioned about the Expanse, that particular sequence that takes place. Chris Roberts talked about the fact of losing air and vacuum, having to monitor. There are some people who raised issues about engineering, feeling like it's getting too complex. I just want to be able to go out and do my mission or fly, or I want this. And I can understand that, because especially since that's what this game has been for freaking 8 years. It's been just this just go get in our ship and go. And the most I have to worry about was putting fuel in and pushing a repair button. But that is about to change. And I do wonder if this change will be something that people will feel a certain way about, but embrace. Because they'll say, hey, this isn't as bad as I thought it was, or I see where this is going, or I've never done this before, or whether there will be people who are still looking for a certain level of gratification that happens without all that work, and they may struggle. They may feel that I bought this, and I'm not going to even go to like the level of a Idris or something like that, but maybe it's their Corsair, right? Or maybe it is their, I don't know, their Carrack, very popular ship in the game. The Carrack's going to probably have this stuff in it, the resource management. And that engineering section is not in the front. It's in the back. Okay.
It's already like, it's too far in the back.
It's a long way in the back. It's a long way in the back. The whole C, you got to run down a long corridor and go upstairs. Okay.
Or you better have it. You better have an engineer back there.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So, you know, I as much as I'm embracing this and loving it, and even maybe it's easy for me because I have so many of you wonderful people out there who are friends who want to play together, or because I'm in a big organization like Test. But there are players out there who may be lone players. And so far, this game has satisfied them. They've been able to, as a single player, step into this world and accomplish the majority, not everything. Obviously, there are some things that you need a bunch of people for, but they've been able to accomplish a lot of stuff. You know, I think that, again, this is that tightrope that I talked about earlier with CIG. They want to make it accessible to people who come in as solo players. You know, when we have a good friend of ours, Paradise, who said he used to play by himself. And over time now, he loves playing with multiplayer and playing with us as a group. But he was a solo player. I'm hoping
he had to get exposed to that, right?
Exactly.
And it had to be a good experience time after time, right?
Exactly. And that's what I'm kind of hoping happens, that for the people who might feel a certain kind of way about these things, just like when they talked about food and drink, people felt a certain kind of way. But then once it got in, they realized it wasn't as bad as they thought it was going to be. And I'm hoping that CIG finds that balance in there that allows people to feel like they're getting the sim, but at the same time giving room for those people who want to play in this space world that's being created. And they're just not sim people, you know, but they want that feeling of what it means to go into space. They want to see that feeling of seeing another planet or going to another star system without necessarily all the complexity. That's going to be a tough tightrope for them to walk, because there's a lot of us gamers who want that. Mm-hmm.
Well, I was going to say, and you come from the perspective of inclusion, right? You come from the perspective of the more people we can have involved in this, the more that this speaks to different ways of seeing and being in game, the better. Right?
Yeah.
I will give you the devil's advocate, right? And that's the Guy Kawasaki approach, right? Kawasaki was for a time the chief evangelist for Apple. Right. And one of the things he talked about doing every day was polarizing people, right? And driving actual choice, right? And that is actually how you market share, how you win loyalty, how you win connection, is by going hard for your vision and letting that vision have people say that is absolutely for me or that is absolutely not for me, right? And then leaning into the people who say is for you, right? So towards that end, I come back to that Tyler Witkin statement that they made to Linus Tech Tips, right? Where they said they want to make the most ambitious, immersive, uncompromising universe sim ever. And I won't read the whole thing, but I would rather them build out that level of complexity and then back it off in certain areas for access than to build simple systems and never be able to give us complexity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So for me, it's like if they build out this complex set of things and at first is a bit baffling and a bit overwhelming, but you can get in the game and begin to understand it through Arena Commander or through some theaters of war, or you can come in during Foundation Festival and get a guide, right? Or those types of things.
Yeah.
Then I think that's the orientation. You have to choose, right? If they have to polarize, that would be the choice I would want them to make versus going, let's start simplifying all these systems, right? And then we never get the complexity that the project promises.
Right.
So.
And to your point, that's why we were mentioning earlier about the evolution of development. Sometimes when things get introduced, people think that's it, right? Like when we first got the multi-tool, they thought that was it. Right. When we got
because they've been educated to that by the AAA community, right? Where it's hard for them to hear Tier 0 with us. When they get something from Activision, that is it.
Yeah, true enough. And so I'm saying is in development, it has to start simple. You see what I'm saying? But it evolves, right? We went from that. We got the rifle. Now we've got the different levels of stuff that they could. I mean, they're building the complexity as it goes. And engineering's the same way. First, it started out with nothing but a simple fuse, right? But now we're seeing the components. We're seeing physicalization. Why it's so meaningful now? Why it does mean something? People say, why do I got to be worried about this physicalized stuff? Now we're starting to understand. Now your cargo bay is not going to be about how much cargo you can haul. It's going to be how many components can I put on here also in case my ship goes down. There's all these different levels of complexity that are starting to build out. I wanted to hit on this last thing here. Let me run this past you. As we're approaching CitizenCon, we are effectively, guys, we're 29 days away from CitizenCon. 28 days away from CitizenCon, something like that. The title of today's show was A Pioneer, Want One, Be One. And it's interesting that a lot of us want a